guys, thank you very much for joining my channel today. My name is Mercy. I'm so happy to have you here again. If you're new on this channel, thank you very much for joining, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much. God bless you. Today, from my last video, I will carry on with the series that we're just about to start, the 50 people that every Christian should know. And I'm starting with number 1. And the first person we are talking about today, she's a woman and who is called Katherine Von Bora. This woman is a wife of a very renowned man of God who was a priest, a German priest and a theologian, and his name is Martin Luther. This is not the Martin Luther that we know popularly known, but this one was actually a German monk who brought about Reformation in the church. Katherine was born in the year 1499. Gosh, that's a very long year. And she lost her mother at the age of 5-year-old, and the dad had to put her in boarding school, and later he transferred her when she clocked 9 to a convent. And we could know, as the writer put it here, that it was not easy. The convent was not an easy place for a child of that whole year to live in, but she had a basic provision anyway, a basic needs being met, which is protection, the need for food and friends. So she grew up in that vicinity, and later in the year 1515 she got married to Christ. I was actually shocked because I know that the church is the bride of Christ, but I never knew that someone actually could be called a wife themselves. So this woman, she officially became a nun in this year after she got married to Christ. And after she got married, it happened at the time that there was the Reformation that was going on in the church was spreading really fast across Germany, and it was leading many of the monks and nuns to become believers, and many of them were seeking to escape the convent. And there was a time 12 nuns wrote on to Luther that they wanted to escape the convent, and Luther had to arrange with his nephew to get some of these nuns out of the convent, and Katherine was part of them. When they got out of the convent, 3 of the people that they escaped, they sent them back to their houses, but the rest of them, Martin tried to to matchmake them with godly husbands. However, Katherine refused to get married to any man. I mean, it was just all the effort of Martin or of Luther were all fruitless. And later she made it known actually that if, and I will just quote it from the book itself, she finally let it be known that if Dr. Luther were to ask her hand to be his wife, she would not say no. Though Luther was not against marriage at this time, there were many things that were, let me say that were restricting Luther from getting married. One was that really he knew already that he was a figure that is out there, and he does not want to be put his family in danger, so he would rather just remain himself and know that any risk is taken is the only one that will be involved. And also at that time, clergy, being a celibacy was the order of the day for pastors. However, after a long time, it was broken, and Luther finally married Katherine in the year 1525. They got married at Luther was age 42, while Katherine was 25 years old when they got married. And many people actually believed that the marriage was not going to be successful. However, it turned around to be the other way around. In fact, many people were looking after their marriage, became like a role model. And I'm going to read what a church historian, Philip Schaff, wrote. He said that the domestic life of Luther has far more than a biographical interest. It is one of the factors of modern civilization. Without Luther's Reformation, clerical celibacy, with all its risks and evil consequences, might still be the universal law in all Western churches. So imagine all the Western churches, till now, saying that if you are going to be a pastor, you cannot marry. Just imagine it. This was the man that brought about that Reformation. We have to also, give some kudos to Katherine as well, because it was not easy for her to live with this man. And the writer put it down here that it was not easy for her to run down, cluster into comfortable home, and it was not easy for her to convert a hyperactive professor preacher into a patient husband and a father. That was not someone that has lived, that had the wealth that he could, use to take care of his family. But Catherine was the support that he had. Catherine was able to go to the extent that she had cows. She would milk cow milk, and then make into cheese. She will make cheese and butter from it, and anyone that even eats over cheese and butter will be like, oh, this is best. I mean, it tastes better than the one they could ever get in the market. Also, because Luther loved pigs, Catherine also had a pig farm. And Luther, we always call her the mistress of pigsty. And she also turned a neglected field into productive gardening, and she planted orchards that many times, when she does not use the produce from, if she could not use the produce from the orchards, she would go to the market and sell. Her house became habitable for many people to come. She would give medicine to many people in the community. She looked after many. She had 6 children, but even much more than that, she was able to reach out onto many other people aside from that. And the essence of this story was that without the impact or the input of this woman, Catherine, in the life of Luther, he might not have been able to accomplish many things that he did. And I would like to actually read one of the story that I found very, very interesting. There was a time that Luther was actually suffering from depression, and I will read exactly what the writer wrote there. He said, during one very difficult period, Luther was carrying many burdens and fighting many battles. Usually jolly and smiling, he was instead depressed and worried. Then Catherine endured this for days. Then one day she met him at the door wearing a black mourning dress. And the professor asked, who died? But she was like, God. I'm sure Luther was it was like, you foolish thing, said Luther. Why this foolishness? What do you mean that God has died? Then she said, it is true. God must have died for Dr. Luther, or God must have died, or Dr. Luther would not be so sorrowful. He said our therapy worked so much so that Luther snapped out of his depression immediately. She was able, to support him in this difficult situation. And the writer also talked about a particular book that Luther wrote, which is titled The Table Talk of Martin Luther. And she said that, the writer said that this book was actually written from the table that Catherine made. When Luther have guests and they will come around, and just from the discussions that were on that table, that was where this book was bettered. And it was because Catherine made the house habitable for the guests. And the essence of this story now is that pastor's wife, actually, they go through a lot. They live sacrificial life. And the writer is saying that, what have you done lately to appreciate your pastor's wife? Most of the time we focus so much on the pastors, and which is good, but behind the scene, or behind everything, we should always note and know that there is someone who is standing beside him, making it possible for him to actually do the work of the ministry to the extent of what he could do. If the wife is not making the home habitable, the man will not be able to discharge his duties very well. In fact, there was a time that Martin had to hand over the affairs of the home onto his wife, because he knew that she was better at it. She was left her to do that. I'm encouraging my generation. Let us learn to appreciate our pastor's wife. They do a lot. They sacrifice a lot. So many times they forget their own pain, and then they carry the pain even of the members of the church. They were not the one called into ministry, but by the virtue of them being married to your pastor, they have been in the ministry themselves. And the least we could do is to encourage them and to bless them. Thank you very much for watching, guys. God bless you. See you in the next series. Keep tuned.